Eleanor Prescott's frozen fingers couldn't unclasp her wedding ring. She'd tried for 10 minutes, kneeling in the snow outside Hartwell's general store, her children watching with hollow eyes. 3 days without food. 4 without heat. The ring wouldn't move. "Mama," Noah whispered, "your hands are bleeding." She kept pulling. The store door opened. A giant shadow fell across the snow. "Ma'am." His voice was low, rough, like mountain gravel. "What are you doing?" She looked up at the scarred stranger, tears freezing on her cheeks. "Buying my children one more day." If you want to see how this desperate widow's story unfolds, subscribe to our channel and follow her journey to the very end. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The ring slipped off with skin attached. Eleanor didn't feel it. Cold had stolen sensation hours ago, somewhere between the foreclosure notice and the walk into town. She stared at the thin gold band in her palm, dark with blood, and thought of Samuel's face when he'd placed it on her finger. "Till death do us part." Death had parted them 8 months ago. A collapsed mine shaft. 3 other men. No bodies recovered. "Mama," Grace tugged at her skirt. 5 years old, small for her age, wrapped in every piece of clothing Eleanor owned that could be layered. "Mama, why are you crying?" "I'm not crying, baby." Eleanor wiped her face with the back of her hand. The tears had frozen into tracks. "Mama's just cold." Noah said nothing. 10 years old, his father's jaw, his father's silence. He stood apart from them, watching the street, watching the people who passed without looking. He'd stopped asking questions 2 days ago when the last of the flour ran out. Eleanor pushed herself up from the snow. Her knees cracked. Her vision swam. When did I last eat? She couldn't remember. The general store's windows glowed warm and yellow. Inside, she could see shelves stacked with goods. Flour, salt pork, coffee, sugar. Things she'd taken for granted 8 months ago when Samuel came home every night with silver dust in his hair and a paycheck in his pocket. The door opened. A man filled the frame. Tall, broader than any man she'd seen in Silverton. Dark hair streaked with gray, a scar running from his left temple to jaw hands like shovels. He wore a rancher's coat worn at the elbows and boots caked with mud and snow. He stopped when he saw her. Eleanor's throat closed. She knew what she looked like. Widow's black faded to gray. Patches on patches. 2 starving children and a wedding ring clutched in bloody fingers. She lifted her chin anyway. "Sir?" Her voice came out steady. "A miracle. I'd like to sell this ring. It's real gold. My husband bought it in Denver. I'm asking $15, but I'll take 10. The man didn't move. Behind him, the store's warmth leaked out into the cold. Eleanor could smell bread. Fresh bread. Her stomach cramped so hard she nearly doubled over. Grace whimpered. The man's eyes dropped to the children. Something shifted in his face. Not pity exactly. Something harder, older. "Jonas!" A voice from inside the store. "Close the damn door, you're letting out the heat." The giant Jonas stepped forward instead. The door swung shut behind him. He stood in the snow breath fogging, studying Eleanor with eyes the color of creek stones. "That ring." His voice was quiet. "Your husband give it to you?" "Yes." "He dead." Eleanor's jaw tightened. 8 months. "Mine collapse." "How did you—" "I know the look." Jonas reached into his coat, pulled out a leather wallet. His movements were slow, deliberate, like a man handling something fragile. "The Silver King shaft." "Yes." He nodded once, counted out bills, held them toward her. Eleanor stared. "That's $30. I know what it is. The ring's not worth $30. Didn't say it was." Jonas pressed the bills into her hand, curled her frozen fingers around them. His hands were warm, calloused. "Go inside. Tell Martha to put together a food basket. Whatever you need. Tell her I said to add it to my account." Eleanor's legs buckled. Jonas caught her elbow, steadied her. His grip was gentle despite his size. "Easy, ma'am. Easy." "I can't." She tried to push the money back. "I can't accept charity. I came to sell the ring, that's all. A fair trade. I don't need—" "It ain't charity." Jonas released her elbow, stepped back. His expression hadn't changed. "It's a purchase. You sold me a ring. I paid what I wanted to pay. Transaction's done." "But, Mama," Noah's voice cut through, sharp, frightened. "Mama, Grace isn't moving." Eleanor spun. Grace had sat down in the snow. Her eyes were closed, her lips blue. She'd stopped shivering. Eleanor dropped the money, dropped the ring, dropped everything. She fell to her knees beside her daughter, pulling the small body into her arms. "Grace? Grace, baby, wake up. Open your eyes for Mama." Nothing. "Grace." Jonas moved past her in 2 strides. He scooped Grace up like she weighed nothing, cradled her against his chest, and headed for the store. "Bring the boy," he said over his shoulder. "Now." Eleanor grabbed Noah's hand and ran. Inside, the heat hit her like a wall. Eleanor gasped, lungs burning with sudden warmth. The store smelled of coffee and leather and wood smoke. A woman behind the counter, 60 gray hair pinned back, looked up from her ledger. Her eyes widened. "Jonas, what in the hot water?" Jonas laid Grace on the counter, started unwrapping her layers with surprising gentleness. "Blankets. Whatever soup you got on the stove." "Is she—" "She's breathing. Barely." Jonas looked up, and for the first time, Eleanor saw emotion crack through his stoic face. Fear. "Martha, move." Martha moved. Eleanor reached the counter, touched her daughter's face. Cold. So cold. But there beneath her fingers a pulse. Faint flickering. "She's alive." Eleanor's voice broke. "She's alive." "Not for long if we don't warm her up." Jonas stripped off his coat, wrapped it around Grace's small body. "You. Mother. What's your name?" "Eleanor. Eleanor Prescott." "Eleanor." He said it like he was memorizing it. "Your boy needs to eat. Martha's got bread behind the counter. Get some food in him before he goes down too." "I can't leave Grace." "I got Grace." Jonas's eyes met hers, steady, certain. "I ain't going nowhere. Go feed your boy." Eleanor hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to stay, to hold her daughter, to never let go. Noah tugged at her hand. "Mama, he's right. I'm okay. Help Grace." She looked at her son. 10 years old, and already trying to be the man of the house. Already sacrificing so she wouldn't have to choose. "You eat," she said fiercely. "You eat everything Martha gives you. Promise me." "I promise." Martha appeared with a bowl of soup, pressed it into Noah's hands. The boy sat on a flour barrel and ate like he'd never seen food before. Because he hadn't. Not real food. Not in days. Eleanor turned back to Grace. Jonas had positioned her near the stove. He was rubbing her hands, her feet, working circulation back into her frozen limbs. His jaw was set, his movements methodical. "Why are you helping us?" Eleanor whispered. Jonas didn't look up. "Because someone has to." "You don't know us." "I know enough." He glanced at her just briefly. "I know what it looks like when a mother's willing to sell her wedding ring in the snow. I know what it looks like when a boy stops being a boy because he has to be something else. And I know what it looks like when a child's too cold to shiver." He turned back to Grace. "I know plenty." The door opened behind them. Cold air swept in. Eleanor turned. A man stood in the doorway. 50, silver-haired, dressed in a suit too fine for Silverton. He wore leather gloves dark as oil and carried a silver-topped cane. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Jonas." The man's voice was smooth, educated, wrong. "I see you found our little runaway." Jonas straightened slowly. He didn't step away from Grace, but his body shifted, positioned himself between the child and the newcomer, Cunningham. Mr. Hartwell. Cunningham's gaze slid past. Jonas landed on Eleanor. His smile widened. And Mrs. Prescott, I've been looking for you. Eleanor's blood turned to ice. Not from the cold this time. I paid the account. Her voice came out thin. Last month. I paid what was owed. Did you? Cunningham reached into his coat, produced a folded document. The bank's records show otherwise. 3 months in arrears on your husband's mining claim. 4 months on the cabin mortgage. Total debt owed. He paused, consulting the paper. $412. That's impossible. Samuel paid. Samuel is dead, Mrs. Prescott. Cunningham's voice hardened. Dead men don't pay debts. Living widows do. Jonas moved. 1 step, just one. But suddenly, he was very close to Cunningham, and Cunningham was very close to the door. Not here, Jonas said quietly. Not now. I beg your pardon? The woman's daughter is half frozen. Her son hasn't eaten in days. Whatever business you got with her, it can wait. Cunningham's eyes narrowed. This is a legal matter, Hartwell. Bank business. I don't believe it concerns you. It concerns me now. The two men stared at each other. Eleanor watched Cunningham's gloved hands tighten on his cane. She watched Jonas's shoulders set immovable as the mountains outside. The air between them crackled. Finally, Cunningham smiled. That same cold smile. Very well. He tucked the document back into his coat. I'll return tomorrow, Mrs. Prescott. We'll discuss your options then. His gaze lingered on Grace's still form. All of your options. He turned and left. The door closed. The cold retreated. Eleanor exhaled. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. Who is that man? She asked. Jonas returned to Grace's side, resumed rubbing warmth into her hands. Fletcher Cunningham. Owns the bank. Owns most of the debts in this town. He paused. Owns the mineral rights to half the claims in the territory. My husband's claim. Don't know yet. Jonas looked up at her. But I intend to find out. Why? Because something ain't right. His jaw tightened. A man like Cunningham don't chase down widows in snowstorms over $400. That's pocket change to him. He wants something else. What? That's the question, isn't it? Jonas pulled a blanket tighter around Grace. The girl's color was returning pink, creeping back into her cheeks. That's the question we need to answer. Martha appeared at Eleanor's elbow, pressed a cup of hot coffee into her hands. Drink. You're as pale as your daughter. Eleanor drank. The coffee burned going down, but the warmth spread through her chest, thawing something that had been frozen for months. The boy's asleep, Martha said softly. Ate 3 bowls of soup and passed out on the flour sacks. I put a blanket over him. Eleanor's eyes burned. Thank you. I'll pay you back, every cent. I just need time. Hush. Martha's voice was firm but not unkind. Jonas already settled the account. You don't owe me nothing. I can't keep accepting. You can, and you will. Martha glanced at Jonas, something unspoken passing between them. That man's been alone too long. Does him good to have someone to help? Lord knows he won't help himself. Jonas said nothing, but Eleanor saw his ears redden. Grace stirred. Eleanor dropped to her knees beside the counter, took her daughter's hand. Grace, baby. The girl's eyes fluttered open, blue like her father's, confused at first, then focusing. Mama, I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I had a dream. Grace's voice was hoarse but steady. A giant carried me through the snow. He had warm hands. Eleanor looked at Jonas. He was staring out the window, watching the street, watching for Cunningham's return. His face betrayed nothing. but his hands, she noticed, were trembling.
At all.
Night fell hard and fast in the mountains. Eleanor sat by the stove, Grace asleep in her lap. Noah curled on a makeshift bed of flour sacks and blankets. The store was closed, shutters drawn, door bolted against the wind. Jonas sat across from her, whittling something from a scrap of pine. The knife moved in slow, careful strokes. Shavings curled onto the floor. "You can't stay here forever," Martha said from behind the counter. She was organizing shelves, making busy work to avoid leaving. "Cunningham will be back tomorrow. He always comes back." "I know." Eleanor stroked Grace's hair. "I just need to think. There has to be a way." "There isn't." Martha's voice was gentle but honest. "I've seen Cunningham do this before. He finds a weakness, a debt, a piece of paper no one remembers signing. He pushes until you break. Then he takes what he wants." "What does he want from me?" Martha hesitated, looked at Jonas. Jonas stopped whittling. "Your husband's claim," he said slowly, "borders the old Silver King shaft, goes deep, real deep, deeper than anyone's mind in this territory. Samuel always said there was more silver down there. He just couldn't afford the equipment to reach it. Someone can afford it now." Jonas set down the knife. "Word is the railroad's coming through. Denver and Rio Grande line. They need timber ore supplies. Whoever controls the claims along that route controls the territory." Eleanor finished the thought. "Cunningham." Jonas nodded. "But Samuel paid off the claim. I know he did. He showed me the receipt. He was so proud." Her voice cracked. "He said we'd never have to worry again." "You still got that receipt?" "It was in his things, at the cabin." Eleanor's stomach dropped. The cabin Cunningham just foreclosed on. Silence. Martha cursed under her breath. "That snake. He took the cabin first because he knew the proof was inside." Jonas stood. The motion was abrupt, controlled violence barely contained. "He's been planning this, probably since the mine collapse, maybe before." "You think he—" Eleanor couldn't finish the sentence. "I don't think anything yet." Jonas's voice was hard. "But I intend to find out." He crossed to the door, pulled on his coat. "Where are you going?" "Your cabin. If there's anything left, any papers, any proof. It's after dark. The snow. I know the mountains." Jonas lifted the bolt. "Stay here. Keep the door locked. Don't open it for anyone but me." "Jonas." Martha's voice was sharp. "Cunningham's got men. Wade Osborne answers to him. If they catch you at that cabin, then they catch me." Jonas looked back at Eleanor. Just for a moment. "I've been caught before." He opened the door and the cold rushed in. Then he was gone. Eleanor didn't sleep. She sat by the window, Grace warm against her chest, watching the snow fall. The storm had worsened, wind howling through the streets, drifts building against the buildings. No one moved outside, no one sane. And somewhere out there, a stranger was risking his life for her. "He won't find anything." Martha sat beside her, pressing another cup of coffee into her hands. "Cunningham's thorough. If he wanted those papers, he took them weeks ago. Then why is Jonas going?" Martha was quiet for a long moment. "Because he's Jonas Hartwell," she sighed. "Because 15 years ago he had a wife and a daughter. Pretty little thing, same age as your Grace. They lived on a ranch outside of town. Happiest family you ever saw." Eleanor's throat tightened. "What happened?" "Man named Cornelius Payne happened. Banker like Cunningham. Same tricks, same games. Pushed Jonas into debt, foreclosed on the ranch. Jonas's wife—" Martha stopped. Started again. Jonas's wife couldn't take it. The shame, the loss. She walked into the river one January night, took the baby with her. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. "Jonas found them in the spring when the ice broke." Martha's voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. "He ain't been the same since. Sold what was left, bought this store, kept to himself. Won't talk about it. Won't let anyone close. Why is he helping me? Because he sees them. Martha looked at Grace, at Noah. In your children. In you. He sees what he lost. And maybe... She hesitated. Maybe he thinks if he saves you, he saves them somehow. In his head, I mean. In his heart. Eleanor stared into the storm. Somewhere out there, a broken man was fighting for a family that wasn't his, for children who reminded him of the one he'd buried, for a woman he'd met only hours ago. She thought of Samuel's ring still lying somewhere in the snow outside. She thought of the $30 in her pocket. She thought of Grace's blue lips and Noah's silent hunger, and the way Jonas's hands had trembled when he thought no one was watching. I will not let him down. The thought came fierce and sudden. I will not let this town break us. I will not let Cunningham win. I will find the proof, I will save my children, and I will repay every kindness Jonas Hartwell has shown me, even if it kills me. The door burst open at midnight. Eleanor shot to her feet, heart pounding. Grace woke crying. Noah scrambled for the fire poker. Jonas stumbled through the doorway covered in snow, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. In his arms he carried a metal box rusted at the hinges, lock broken. Found it. He dropped the box on the counter, swayed. Martha caught his arm. Hidden under the floorboards. Whoever searched the cabin missed it. Eleanor rushed to the box, hands shaking. Inside, papers, receipts, letters. And there at the bottom, a single document. Official seal. Samuel's signature. Dated 3 days before the mine collapse. Received in full, $412. Claim number 7. Section 14. Samuel Prescott, owner. All debts satisfied. Eleanor's legs gave out. She sat on the floor, clutching the paper, and wept. It's real. Martha examined the receipt under the lamplight. I recognize the bank seal, the notary signature. This is legitimate. Then Cunningham lied. Noah's voice was hard, too hard for 10 years old. He said we owed money. He lied. He did more than lie. Jonas pressed a cloth to his forehead. The bleeding had stopped, but a bruise was forming. He forged records, changed the dates, made it look like Samuel never paid. Can we prove it? Jonas looked at Eleanor. We can try. He reached into the box, pulled out another paper. A letter handwritten, dated the day of the mine collapse. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I've made arrangements you should know about. The claim is paid. The cabin is paid. Everything is in the box under the boards where I taught Noah to hide his treasures. But there's more. I've discovered something about the Silver King shaft. Something Cunningham doesn't want anyone to know. The collapse wasn't an accident. I have proof. I've sent a copy to Judge Harrison in Denver, but I don't know if it arrived. If something happens to me, find Jonas Hartwell. He's the only honest man left in this town. He'll help you. I love you. I love our children. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. Forever yours, Samuel. Eleanor read the letter 3 times. Then she looked at Jonas. Samuel knew you. We were friends. Jonas's voice was rough. Long time ago, before the store. Before... He stopped. He came to me a week before the collapse. Said he'd found something in the lower shafts. Said Cunningham was involved. I told him to go to the law. He didn't. He didn't trust the law. Said Cunningham owned the sheriff, the deputy, half the town. Jonas's jaw tightened. 3 days later, the mine collapsed. 4 men dead. Samuel among them. You think Cunningham killed him? It wasn't a question. Jonas met her eyes. I think Cunningham kills anyone who gets in his way. He took the letter from her hands, folded it carefully. And I think we just became people who are in his way. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, a widow and a shopkeeper made a silent pact. Tomorrow, they would fight. Dawn broke gray and bitter. Eleanor hadn't slept. She sat at Martha's kitchen table. Samuel's letter spread before her, reading the words until they blurred. Find Jonas Hartwell. He's the only honest man left in this town. Samuel had known. Somehow, weeks before he died, he'd known who to trust. Mama. Noah appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Is Grace okay? She's sleeping. Eleanor folded the letter, tucked it into her bodice. How are you feeling? Better. He crossed to the table, sat across from her. His eyes were too old, too watchful. I heard you talking last night, about Papa, about the mine. Eleanor's heart clenched. You should have been sleeping. I know what happened. Noah's voice was steady. Papa didn't die in an accident. Someone killed him. Noah, don't lie to me. His jaw set exactly like Samuel's. I'm not a baby. I can handle the truth. Eleanor reached across the table, took his hands. They were cold, calloused for a boy his age. Hands that had worked too hard, too young. Yes, she said quietly. Someone killed your father. And that same someone is trying to take everything he left us. Mr. Cunningham. Yes. Noah's fingers tightened around hers. What are we going to do? We're going to fight. Eleanor squeezed back. We're going to prove what really happened, and we're going to make sure your father's death meant something. How? Before she could answer, the back door opened. Jonas stepped through stamping snow from his boots. His face was grim. Cunningham's already moving. He dropped into a chair, accepted the coffee Martha pressed into his hands. Sent word to Judge Harrison in Denver. Claimed Eleanor's mentally unfit. Grieving widow, unstable, making wild accusations. Eleanor's blood turned cold. He can't. He can, and he did. Jonas drank deep, set down the cup. Harrison won't hear any case involving you until a doctor certifies you're of sound mind. That could take weeks. That's the point. Jonas's eyes met hers. He's buying time. Time to destroy evidence, time to shore up his story, time to make you look like a madwoman grieving her dead husband. Martha cursed under her breath. That snake's been planning this for months. Longer. Jonas pulled a folded newspaper from his coat. Found this in the cabin. Denver Post, dated 2 weeks before the collapse. He spread it on the table. A small article buried in the business section. Railroad survey. Complete Denver and Rio Grande to extend line through Silverton territory. Samuel circled it. Jonas tapped the page. Wrote something in the margin. Eleanor leaned close. Samuel's handwriting cramped and hurried. C knows. Buying claims. Something wrong with Silver King survey. He figured it out. Her voice came out strangled. He knew Cunningham was manipulating the land values. More than that. Jonas turned the paper over. On the back, more notes, numbers, coordinates, a rough map. He found something in the lower shafts, something that changes everything about where that railroad's going to run. What? Don't know yet, but whatever it is, Cunningham killed 4 men to keep it secret. Jonas folded the paper, handed it to Eleanor. We need to find out what Samuel discovered, before Cunningham buries it forever. The store's front door rattled. Everyone froze. Open up. A voice rough and familiar. Deputy Osborne, official business. Martha moved toward the door, but Jonas stopped her with a hand on her arm. Let me. He crossed to the front room, unbolted the door. Deputy Wade Osborne stood on the threshold. 35, weak chin, nervous eyes. His badge gleamed dull against his coat. Behind him, 2 men Eleanor didn't recognize. Big, hard-faced, Cunningham's men. Jonas. Osborne's voice cracked on the name. I got a warrant. For what? For her. Osborne nodded toward Eleanor. Mrs. Prescott. Mr. Cunningham's filed a complaint. Says she's been making slanderous accusations, disturbing the peace. I'm supposed to bring her in for questioning. Jonas didn't move. On what authority? The law's authority. But Osborne's hand trembled as he held up the paper. "It's all legal. Judge signed it himself." "Which Judge Harrison's in Denver?" "Judge Miller, from Carson City." Osborne licked his lips. "Cunningham sent for him special." Martha appeared at Jonas's shoulder. "Miller, that drunk he'd sign his own mother's death warrant for a bottle of whiskey." "It don't matter what he is." Osborne's voice hardened, but his eyes stayed weak. "The warrant's legal. I got to do my job." Jonas stepped forward, just one step. But suddenly Osborne was backing up, and the two men behind him were reaching for their belts. "Your job." Jonas's voice was quiet, deadly. "Your job is to protect the people of this town, not to drag widows out of bed on trumped-up charges so a banker can steal their land." "I don't make the laws, Jonas." "No. You just enforce them when it suits Cunningham." Jonas's eyes flicked to the two men. "Who are these, Mr. Cunningham's associates, here to ensure the widow doesn't make it to the jailhouse?" Jonas's hand dropped to his side, not reaching for anything, just ready. "That's what this is, isn't it? Take her somewhere quiet. Make her disappear. Another tragic accident like her husband." Osborne's face went pale. "That's not, I wouldn't." "Then walk away." Jonas stepped forward again. Osborne stumbled back. "Walk away, Wade. Tell Cunningham she wasn't here. Tell him whatever you want. But you're not taking this woman." The two men moved forward, flanking Osborne. "This ain't your fight, Hartwell." The bigger one spoke, missing teeth scar across his nose. "Step aside, or we'll move you aside." Jonas smiled. It was the coldest thing Eleanor had ever seen. "Try." The silence stretched. Wind howled outside. Snow fell in thick curtains. Then Osborne's hand shot up, stopping his men. "Wait." His voice was strained. "Just wait." He looked at Jonas, something flickering in his eyes. Fear. Yes. But something else, too. Something that might have been shame. "One day. I'll give you 1 day. Tell Cunningham she wasn't here. But tomorrow," he swallowed. "Tomorrow, I have to bring her in. Or he'll know I lied. Then tomorrow we'll be ready." Jonas didn't move from the doorway. "Now get off this porch." Osborne turned, gestured to his men. They retreated slowly, eyes never leaving Jonas's face. At the edge of the snow, Osborne paused. "Jonas." His voice was barely audible. "I'm sorry. I didn't want, when I took this job, I didn't know." "I know." Jonas's voice softened, just barely. "But knowing ain't enough, Wade. Sooner or later, you got to choose." Osborne nodded. Then he was gone, swallowed by the storm. Jonas closed the door, bolted it, leaned his forehead against the wood. 1 day. Martha's voice was tight. "What can we do in 1 day?" "Everything." Jonas turned to face them. His eyes found Eleanor's. "Or nothing. Depends on what we find." Eleanor stood. Her legs were steady now. Fear had burned away, leaving something harder, colder. "Where do we start?" "The mine." Jonas pulled on his coat. "Whatever Samuel found, it's still down there. Cunningham couldn't destroy it without collapsing the whole shaft. He just buried it. Buried it with your husband. The mine's been closed since the accident. Boarded up. Boards can be removed." Jonas checked his belt, adjusted something beneath his coat. "You stay here. Keep the children safe. I'll—" "No." The word came out sharp. Final. Jonas stopped. "I'm coming with you." Eleanor moved toward the door. "That mine killed my husband. Whatever's down there, I have a right to see it. It's dangerous. If the shaft's unstable, then it's dangerous." She met his eyes. "I've been safe for 8 months, Jonas. Safe and starving and watching my children waste away. Safe hasn't kept us alive. Maybe dangerous will." Something shifted in his face. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. Martha. He didn't look away from Eleanor. Can you watch the children? Like they were my own. Martha was already moving toward the back room. But you two be careful. Cunningham's got eyes everywhere. If he finds out you're at the mine. He won't. Jonas opened the door. Cold rushed in. Not until it's too late. The walk to the mine took an hour. They moved through back alleys behind buildings avoiding the main street. Jonas led his stride long and certain despite the snow. Eleanor followed her lungs, burning her body, screaming for rest she couldn't give it. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Samuel had died in this mine. Had died protecting a secret. If she stopped now, his death meant nothing. The Silver King shaft loomed before them, boarded up just as she'd said. Warning signs nailed to the wood. Danger. Keep out. Unstable structure. Jonas produced a crowbar from beneath his coat. Where did you? I came prepared. He wedged the bar beneath a board pulled. Nails screamed. Wood splintered. Didn't know what we'd find, but I knew we'd need to get through something. 3 more boards and the entrance gaped before them. Dark, cold, smelling of rock dust and something else. Death. Eleanor's stomach turned. You don't have to come. Jonas's voice was gentle. I can go alone. No. She stepped forward into the darkness. He was my husband. This is my fight. Jonas lit a lantern, held it high. The flame flickered, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Ahead, the shaft descended into blackness. They walked. The tunnel narrowed as they went deeper. Eleanor's breath came in short gasps, the air growing thin and cold. Water dripped somewhere. The sound echoed. Samuel came down here every day. Her voice bounced off the walls. For 5 years, I never understood why he loved it. The dark. The danger. Some men find peace in the earth. Jonas's lantern swung as he walked. Quiet. Certainty. You dig, you find, you build something from nothing. Is that why you liked him? Jonas was silent for a moment. I liked him because he was honest. His voice was rough. Rare quality in this territory. Rarer now. They reached a junction. 3 tunnels branching off. Jonas held up the lantern, studying the walls. Samuel's notes mentioned the lower shaft, Section C. He pointed left. This way. The tunnel sloped downward, steeper now. Eleanor's boots slipped on loose rock. Careful. Jonas caught her arm. The floor's unstable. The whole mountain's unstable. But she steadied herself, kept moving. How much further? Can't say. Samuel's map wasn't. Jonas stopped. Eleanor nearly crashed into him. What is it? He raised the lantern higher. Ahead, the tunnel opened into a cavern. And there, in the center, Eleanor saw what her husband had died for. Silver. Not veins. Not deposits. A wall of silver floor to ceiling glittering in the lantern light like frozen lightning. More silver than Eleanor had ever seen. More silver than the entire Silver King operation had produced in 5 years. My God. The words fell from her lips. This is why. Jonas's voice was hollow. This is why Cunningham killed them. Eleanor moved toward the wall, reached out, touched the cool metal. It was real, solid, worth more money than she could comprehend. The official surveys said this section was played out. Jonas came up beside her, said there was nothing left worth mining, but Samuel found this. And Cunningham found out. More than that. Jonas pointed to the floor. Footprints in the dust. Fresh. Recent. Someone's been down here since the collapse. Eleanor's blood went cold. Cunningham's already mining it. She spun, looking for evidence. He killed my husband, claimed the tunnel was unstable, closed the mine to the public, and started extraction through another entrance. Jonas finished the thought. Probably from his own claim, which borders yours. He's been stealing your silver for months. Can we prove it? We can try. Jonas pulled out a knife chipped at the wall. Flakes of silver fell into his palm. This sample came from your claim. If we can match it to whatever Cunningham's been selling. A sound behind them. Click. The unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. That won't be necessary, Mr. Hartwell. Eleanor turned. Fletcher Cunningham stood at the tunnel entrance, flanked by 4 men with rifles. His gloved hands rested on his cane. His smile was cold as the mountain. I must admit, Cunningham said, I didn't expect you to find this so quickly. Samuel took months, but then he was always more cautious than clever. You killed him. Eleanor's voice shook, not with fear, with rage. You killed my husband. I removed an obstacle. Cunningham stepped forward, his men spreading to block any escape. Your husband was going to expose the survey fraud, going to reveal what I'd found, going to destroy everything I'd built. So you collapsed the mine on him. I arranged for a structural failure, yes. Cunningham's tone was casual, bored. These things happen in mining. Dangerous profession. 4 men died. Collateral damage. He waved a gloved hand. Regrettable but necessary. Jonas moved, subtle, positioning himself between Eleanor and the guns. You won't get away with this. His voice was steady. Too many people know. The letter, the evidence. It's already in motion. Is it? Cunningham's smile widened. Deputy Osborne has been persuaded to destroy any documents in Mrs. Prescott's possession. Martha Brennan will suffer an unfortunate fire tonight. And you too, his eyes glittered, will simply disappear. Another mining accident. The mountain claims so many. Eleanor's hand found Jonas's arm, gripped tight. The children. Her voice cracked. My children are at Martha's. They'll be cared for. Cunningham's tone turned silky. I'm not a monster, Mrs. Prescott. Once you're gone, I'll ensure they're placed with a proper family. Raised right. They'll forget you ever existed. Something snapped inside Eleanor. She lunged. Jonas caught her, held her back. His arms were iron around her waist. Easy. His voice was low. Only for her. Not yet. Not like this. He's going to take my children? No. Jonas's grip tightened. He's not. Cunningham laughed. Such devotion. It's almost touching. He nodded to his men. Bind them. We'll stage the accident after dark. The men moved forward. Jonas released Eleanor, stepped in front of her. You'll have to go through me first. That was always the plan. Cunningham's smile vanished. Goodbye, Mr. Hartwell. I'd say I'm sorry, but we both know I'm not. The first man raised his rifle. Jonas moved faster. He grabbed the barrel, twisted, drove his elbow into the man's throat. The rifle discharged, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Rock exploded from the ceiling. Run! Jonas shoved Eleanor toward a side tunnel. Go! Now! She ran. Behind her shouts. Gunfire. The sound of bodies colliding. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs screamed, until the tunnel split again, and she didn't know which way to turn. She stopped. Listened. Silence. Then footsteps, coming closer. Fast. Eleanor pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering. A figure emerged from the darkness. Jonas. Blood on his face, blood on his hands, but standing, breathing. They're down, he was panting. Not for long, we need to move. Cunningham. Got away. Coward ran at the first shot. Jonas grabbed her hand. There's another exit. Quarter-mile east. Samuel marked it on his map. They ran. Through twisting tunnels, over fallen rock, past supports that groaned and shifted. The mountain seemed alive around them, angry at their intrusion. Light appeared ahead. A crack in the rock, barely wide enough for a person. Daylight streaming through. Jonas went first, pulling Eleanor after him. They emerged onto a ledge, high above the valley. The snow had stopped. Below, Silverton spread out like a toy village. Eleanor collapsed against the rock, gasping for air. "We made it." The words came out broken. It's not over." Jonas was scanning the mountain below. "Cunningham will send men to Martha's, to the children." Eleanor was on her feet before she knew she'd moved. "Then we have to get there first." They ran again, down the mountain through the forest across frozen streams. Eleanor's body had moved beyond exhaustion into something else, something that didn't feel pain, didn't feel cold, only felt the burning need to reach her children. The town appeared through the trees, smoke rising, not chimney smoke, something darker, something wrong. "No." Eleanor's voice was a whisper. "No, no, no." She sprinted. Through the streets past shocked faces toward Martha's store. It was burning. Flames licked from the windows, smoke pouring into the sky. A crowd had gathered watching, doing nothing. "Martha!" Eleanor screamed. "Grace! Noah!" A figure emerged from the smoke. Martha Brennan, soot-stained, coughing a child under each arm. Grace. Noah. Alive. Eleanor crashed into them, pulling her children close, sobbing their names. "They're okay." Martha's voice was hoarse. "I got them out. Soon as I saw the men coming, I got them out the back." "Cunningham's men." "2 of them. Set the fire, then left." Martha's eyes were hard. "Didn't even check if we were inside. Amateurs." Jonas reached them, breathing hard. His eyes swept over the children, then met Eleanor's. "Everyone's alive." She was laughing and crying at once. "Everyone's alive." "For now." Jonas looked at the burning store. Everything Martha owned going up in flames. "But Cunningham won't stop, not until he's destroyed everything. Everyone. Then we destroy him first." Eleanor stood her children, clinging to her skirts. "We take everything we know to Judge Harrison, not Miller, Harrison, in Denver. That's 100 miles. Then it's 100 miles. She met his eyes. "I'm not running, Jonas. I'm not hiding. Cunningham took my husband. He tried to take my children. He's tried to take everything." Her voice hardened. "Now I'm going to take everything from him." The crowd shifted around them, watching, whispering, some with sympathy, some with fear. But watching. Jonas nodded slowly. "Then we leave tonight, before Cunningham can regroup." He looked at the burning store, at Martha standing defiant in its light. "All of us." Martha straightened her spine. "I've been wanting to see Denver anyway." She coughed, spat soot. "This town's been dead to me for years." Eleanor looked at her children. Grace wide-eyed and trembling. Noah jaw-set, ready to fight. "Can you do this?" she asked them. "Can you be brave?" Noah's hand found hers. Papa was brave. His voice was steady. "We can be too." Grace nodded, clutching her rag doll. Eleanor looked at the fire at the town that had turned away, at the mountains where her husband lay buried. "Then we go." She squeezed her children's hands. "Tonight. And we don't stop until it's over." The flames roared higher. But Eleanor Prescott didn't look back. The wagon rattled over frozen ruts, every jolt sending pain through Eleanor's exhausted body. She held Grace tight against her chest, the child finally sleeping after hours of silent tears. Noah sat beside Jonas on the driver's bench, watching the road ahead, with eyes that never rested. They'd left Silverton 3 hours ago, slipping out through the back trails Jonas knew from his ranching days. Martha sat across from Eleanor, wrapped in a borrowed coat, her face set in grim determination. Everything she owned had burned. Everything except her life. "How far to the next town?" Eleanor's voice was hoarse from the cold. "Durango. 12 hours if the roads hold." Jonas didn't turn. "We'll rest there. Change horses, keep moving." "Will Cunningham follow?" "He'll try." Jonas's shoulders tensed. "But he doesn't know these mountains like I do. By the time he figures out which way we went, we'll be halfway to Denver." Martha shifted on the bench. And when we get there, Judge Harrison might not see us, might not believe us. He'll believe the evidence. Eleanor touched her bodice where Samuel's letter and the bank receipt pressed against her skin. He'll believe the silver sample. He'll believe what we saw. If we can get to him before Cunningham's money does. Silence fell. The wagon creaked. Wind cut through gaps in the canvas cover, bringing the smell of pine and snow. Grace stirred against Eleanor's chest. "Mama." Her voice was small, confused. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe, baby." "Is the bad man chasing us?" Eleanor's throat tightened. She stroked her daughter's hair fine and soft like Samuel's had been. "Yes, but we're faster, and we're smarter, and we have friends helping us." Grace's eyes found Jonas's back. "Is Mr. Jonas our friend?" "Yes, baby, he's our friend." "Good." Grace settled back against Eleanor's chest. "Papa would like him. Papa always said we needed more friends." Eleanor's vision blurred. She blinked hard, forced the tears back. Martha reached across, squeezed her hand. "She's right, you know." Martha's voice was soft. "Samuel would like him, would trust him." Samuel did trust him. Eleanor looked at Jonas's broad shoulders, steady hands on the reins. "He told me to find him, in the letter. Said Jonas was the only honest man left." "He is." Martha's grip tightened. "Lost everything years ago. Wife, daughter. Could have turned bitter. Could have turned mean. Instead, he just kept going. Kept helping. Kept being decent when decent didn't pay. Why? Because that's who he is." Martha released her hand. "Some people break when the world breaks them. Jonas just got stronger, quieter maybe, lonelier, but stronger." The wagon hit a rut. Everyone jolted. "Sorry." Jonas's voice carried back. "Road's getting rough." Noah spoke up. "I can help watch. Tell you when the bad spots are coming." "You can see in the dark." "No, sir. But I can feel them, the way the wagon tilts before it hits." Jonas was quiet for a moment. "All right then. You feel a bad one coming, you tap my arm. 1 tap for left, 2 for right." "Yes, sir." Eleanor watched her son lean forward, concentrating on the road with fierce attention. 10 years old, and already trying to carry weight no child should bear. Samuel's son, through and through. The hours passed in darkness and cold. Eleanor drifted in and out of sleep, jerking awake at every sound. Grace slept peacefully now, warm against her mother's body. Noah hadn't moved from his post beside Jonas, tapping warnings, watching the dark. Martha snored softly across the wagon. Somewhere in the deepest part of night, Jonas spoke. "Eleanor." She startled awake. "What is it?" "Riders. Behind us." Her blood turned to ice. "Cunningham." "Don't know yet." Jonas's voice was calm. Too calm. "Could be travelers. Could be trouble. I'm going to speed up. Keep the children down." He snapped the reins. The horses surged forward. Eleanor pressed Grace lower, pulled a blanket over them both. Martha woke, instantly alert. "What's happening?" "Riders, stay down." The wagon rocked and bounced, hoofbeats behind them growing closer. "Jonas." Noah's voice was tight. "I can see torches." "How many?" "3, maybe 4. Jonas cursed under his breath. "There's a fork ahead. Half-mile. Right path leads to a ravine, narrow bridge. If we can cross before they catch us." "And if we can't?" Jonas didn't answer. The torches grew brighter. Shouts echoed through the trees. "Hartwell, stop the wagon!" Cunningham's voice. Even at a distance, Eleanor recognized it. That smooth, cultured tone turned harsh with anger. "Stop, and we'll let the children go. Keep running, and I'll burn you all." Martha grabbed a loose board from the wagon floor. "Let him try." "No." Jonas's voice was sharp. "No fighting. Not with the children here. We run. The fork appeared ahead, moonlight gleaming on two paths. Jonas hauled the reins right. The wagon lurched, nearly tipping. The bridge. Eleanor could see it now. Rope and wood spanning a gorge so deep the bottom was invisible. Wide enough for a wagon. Barely. Hold on. Jonas didn't slow. Everyone hold on. The wagon hit the bridge at full speed. Boards screamed. Ropes groaned. The whole structure swayed, and Eleanor's stomach dropped as the gorge yawned beneath them. Grace woke crying. Noah grabbed the wagon's side. The horse's hooves thundered on wood. Halfway across. 3/4. A rope snapped. The wagon tilted one wheel, dropping into empty air. Eleanor screamed. Jonas threw his weight to the opposite side, hauling the reins. The horses pulled. The wheel found wood again. They surged forward. Solid ground. The wagon cleared the bridge, and Jonas pulled the horses to a stop, leaping down before they'd fully halted. Get off. Now. Eleanor grabbed Grace, jumped from the wagon. Noah followed. Martha stumbled out last. Jonas ran to the bridge, knife in hand. What are you? He cut the ropes. The bridge swung loose, tilted, then fell into the darkness with a sound like breaking bones. On the far side, torches appeared. Men on horses pulling up short at the gorge's edge. Cunningham's voice echoed across the gap. Hartwell, you can't run forever. Jonas stood at the edge, breathing hard. Watch me. The railroad reaches Denver in a week. I have men there. Connections. You think a judge is going to take a widow's word over mine? I think a judge is going to look at the evidence. Jonas's voice carried strong across the void. I think he's going to see your forged documents, your stolen silver, your murdered miners, and I think he's going to see you hang. Silence. Then Cunningham laughed. Cold. Hollow. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Hartwell. I built this territory. I own it, and I'll burn it to the ground before I let some shopkeeper and a grieving widow take it from me. He wheeled his horse. Find another way across. I want them dead before they reach Denver. The torches retreated into the darkness. Jonas stood motionless, staring across the gorge. Eleanor approached slowly. Her legs were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. Jonas! He turned. His face was hard, but his eyes were something else. Something tired. Something old. He means it. Jonas's voice was quiet. He'll kill us all before he lets us reach that courtroom. I know. You could still turn back. Take the children somewhere safe. Let me... No. Eleanor stepped closer. Samuel trusted you to help me. Not to fight alone. Not to die alone. Samuel's dead. And I'm not. She met his eyes. Neither are my children. Neither are you. We finish this together, or we don't finish it at all. Jonas stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Together then. Martha's voice cut through. If you two are done being noble, we've got a wagon to move, and a lot of ground to cover. Jonas almost smiled. Almost. She's right. He moved toward the wagon. We lost them for now, but that gorge won't stop Cunningham long. There's another crossing 10 miles south. He'll be on us by morning. Then we don't stop until we're in Denver. We don't stop until it's over. They climbed back into the wagon. The horses moved forward. Behind them, the broken bridge swung in the wind, ropes dangling into darkness. Ahead, the road stretched long and cold. They reached Durango at dawn. The town was small, tired, a cluster of buildings around a single muddy street. But it had what they needed. Fresh horses, food, a telegraph office. Jonas stopped the wagon outside the general store. Stay here. He jumped down. I'll get supplies. Martha, keep watch. What about the telegraph? Eleanor called after him. Jonas paused. What about it? Samuel's letter mentioned Judge Harrison. Said he'd sent a copy of his evidence to Denver. If we could wire ahead, tell Harrison we're coming. Cunningham's got men watching every telegraph in the territory. Jonas shook his head. We send a wire, he'll know exactly where we are and where we're going. But if Harrison knows to expect us, then Cunningham knows too. Jonas's voice was firm. We stay quiet, we stay fast, we don't give him anything to work with. He disappeared into the store. Eleanor sank back against the wagon's side. Grace had fallen asleep again, exhausted from the night's terror. Noah sat beside her, silent, watchful. Mama. His voice was barely a whisper. What is it? I want to help more. His jaw tightened. I want to do something, not just sit here. Eleanor took his hand. You are doing something. You're being brave. You're taking care of your sister. That's not enough. Noah pulled his hand away. Papa fought. Papa did things. I'm just sitting. Your father fought, and he died. The words came out sharper than she intended. He tried to do the right thing alone, and Cunningham killed him for it. Noah's eyes widened. Eleanor softened her voice. I'm not saying he was wrong to fight. I'm saying he was wrong to fight alone. That's why we have Jonas. That's why we have Martha. That's why we're running instead of hiding. But the most important thing you can do right now is survive. She took his face in her hands. Survive and remember. Remember what Cunningham did. Remember why we're fighting. Because someday, when you're grown, you'll be the one telling this story. You'll be the one making sure it never happens again. Noah's eyes glistened. He blinked hard. I'll remember, Mama. His voice was thick. I'll remember everything. Jonas emerged from the store, arms full of supplies. Behind him, a boy led 2 fresh horses. We leave in 10 minutes. Jonas began loading in the wagon. There's a way station 50 miles east. We can rest there, change horses again. And after that, Denver, straight through. Jonas secured the last bundle. 2 days, maybe less if the roads hold. Martha climbed down from the wagon, stretching her stiff limbs. I'll get coffee. Something hot. Lord knows we'll need it. She disappeared into the store. Eleanor watched Jonas work. His movements were efficient, practiced. But there was tension in his shoulders. Worry in the set of his jaw. You think we'll make it? It wasn't a question. Jonas stopped, looked at her. I think we have to try. His voice was quiet. I think your husband died for something worth dying for. I think those children deserve to grow up safe. And I think, he paused, I think sometimes trying is all we've got. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Jonas returned to his work. I've seen bad men win before. I've seen good people lose everything. I've seen... His voice caught. I've seen things no one should see. Eleanor moved closer. Martha told me. About your wife. Your daughter. Jonas's hands stilled. I'm sorry. Eleanor's voice was gentle. I'm sorry you lost them. I'm sorry the world took them from you. Jonas didn't move, didn't speak. But I'm grateful. She touched his arm, just briefly. Grateful you're here. Grateful you're helping us. Samuel was right about you. You are the only honest man left. Jonas's jaw worked. I'm not honest. His voice was rough. I'm just too stubborn to be anything else. That's the same thing. He looked at her then, really looked, and for just a moment something passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. 2 people who had lost everything fighting to save what remained. Martha burst through the store's door. We have a problem. Jonas straightened. What kind? Telegraph operator. Says Cunningham wired every station between here and Denver. Anyone matching our description is to be detained. Detained on what charge? Doesn't matter. Martha's face was grim. The law out here is whoever's got the most money, and right now that's Cunningham. Eleanor's heart sank. So we can't stop anywhere, can't rest, can't do anything but run. Jonas was already moving toward the wagon. Get in, we're leaving now. But the fresh horses, we'll take them tired. He grabbed the reins. Move. They piled into the wagon. Jonas snapped the reins before Eleanor was fully seated. The horses surged forward. Behind them, a man emerged from the telegraph office, pointing, shouting. They didn't look back. The next 36 hours blurred together. Day and night lost meaning. They stopped only when the horses couldn't go further, sleeping in shifts, eating what little they had. Jonas drove until his hands blistered, then wrapped them and kept driving. Eleanor watched the mountains give way to plains, the snow thin to patches, the air grow warmer with every mile east. Denver was close. She could feel it. Grace had stopped asking questions. She slept most of the time, waking only to eat and drink. Noah sat with Jonas on the driver's bench, the two of them silent, watchful, united in purpose. Martha kept everyone fed, kept spirits up with stories and jokes that no one laughed at, but everyone needed. And Eleanor held Samuel's letter against her heart and prayed. On the second night, Jonas pulled the wagon to a stop. There, he pointed ahead. Denver. Eleanor climbed forward, looked. Lights. Hundreds of them. A city spreading across the plain, glittering like fallen stars. We made it. Her voice was barely a whisper. We actually made it. Not yet. Jonas's voice was tense. Cunningham's had 2 days to prepare. His men will be watching every entrance, every hotel, every street. So what do? We don't go to a hotel. Jonas studied the city. I know someone, old friend from before. He's got a place on the outskirts, owes me a favor. Can he be trusted? No one can be trusted. Jonas snapped the reins. But he's the best chance we've got. They entered Denver at midnight. Jonas took back streets, narrow alleys, paths that wound between buildings like veins through flesh. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every sound could be a threat. Finally, they stopped before a small house, dark and silent. Jonas climbed down, approached the door, knocked 3 times. Silence. He knocked again. The door opened a crack. An eye appeared. Old. Wary. Who's there? It's Jonas. Jonas Hartwell. The eye widened. Jonas. The door opened further. An old man, white-bearded, lean as wire. Good Lord, man. I thought you were dead. Not yet. Jonas gestured to the wagon. I need help, Thomas. I've got a woman, 2 children, another woman. We're in trouble. Thomas looked past him to the wagon. His eyes took in Eleanor, the sleeping children, Martha's grim face. Cunningham trouble. The worst kind. Thomas was silent for a long moment. Then he stepped back, opened the door wide. Get them inside, quickly, before someone sees. They hurried into the house. Thomas bolted the door behind them. Judge Harrison. Jonas wasted no time. We need to see him. Tomorrow. First thing. Harrison's been getting death threats for a week. Thomas led them to a back room, started a fire. Someone doesn't want him taking cases. 3 attempts on his life already. Eleanor's stomach dropped. Cunningham? Who else? Thomas handed out blankets. The judge is holed up at the courthouse. Armed guards day and night. Getting to him won't be easy. It doesn't have to be easy. Jonas's voice was hard. It just has to happen. Thomas studied him for a long moment. You've changed, Jonas. The man I knew would have walked away from this fight. The man you knew didn't have anything left to fight for. Jonas looked at Eleanor, at her children. That's changed. Thomas followed his gaze. Something shifted in the old man's face. Understanding. Maybe respect. All right. He moved to a cabinet, pulled out a map. Here's the courthouse. Here are the guard positions. Here's how we get you inside. They gathered around the table. Outside, Denver slept. Inside, they planned. Dawn would bring the final battle. And Eleanor Prescott would not lose. Eleanor didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window watching Denver wake up one lamp at a time. Grace and Noah slept in the corner wrapped in Thomas's blankets, their breathing slow and even. Martha dozed in a chair, head tilted back, snoring softly. Jonas sat across the room cleaning a pistol he'd borrowed from Thomas. His movements were slow, methodical. The same hands that had pulled her daughter from the snow. The same hands that had cut the bridge and saved their lives. "You should rest." His voice was quiet, not looking up from his work. "Can't. Tomorrow's going to be hard." "I know." Eleanor turned from the window. "That's why I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see Samuel. I see the mine. I see Cunningham's face when he admitted he killed them." Jonas set down the pistol. What did Samuel look like? His voice was different now, softer. "I knew him, but not like you did." Eleanor's throat tightened. He had kind eyes, brown like Noah's. He smiled with his whole face, not just his mouth. And his hands... She paused. His hands were always moving, fixing things, building things. He couldn't sit still. Sounds like a good man. He was. Tears threatened, but she held them back. He was the best man I ever knew. Until you. Jonas looked up sharply. "I'm not." "You are." Eleanor crossed the room, sat across from him. "You didn't have to help us. You didn't have to risk everything. But you did. Because it was right. Because Samuel asked you to. Because..." She hesitated. "Because of who you are." Jonas was silent for a long moment. "I'm not doing this for Samuel." His voice was rough. "Not anymore." "Then why?" He met her eyes. In the lamplight, she could see the scar on his jaw, the lines around his eyes, the weight of years and losses. "Because I couldn't save them." His voice cracked. "My wife, my daughter. I was too late, too slow, too..." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I won't be too late again." Eleanor reached across the space between them, took his hand. "You're not too late." She squeezed gently. "You saved Grace. You saved all of us. Whatever happens tomorrow, that's true." Jonas's fingers tightened around hers. They sat like that hand in hand as the first light of dawn crept through the window. Thomas woke them at 7. Time to move. He was already dressed, a pistol at his belt. "Judge Harrison holds court at 9. We need to be there early before Cunningham's men can set up." Eleanor rose, shook the stiffness from her limbs. Noah was already awake, helping Grace into her coat. "Mama?" Grace's voice was small. "Do I have to go?" Eleanor knelt beside her daughter. "Yes, baby. The judge needs to see you. Needs to see that we're real. That what happened to us is real." "Will the bad man be there?" "Maybe." Eleanor smoothed Grace's hair. "But we won't let him hurt you. I promise." Grace nodded slowly. Her eyes found Jonas. "Will Mr. Jonas protect us?" Jonas moved toward them, knelt beside Eleanor. "I will." His voice was solemn, a promise. "No one's going to hurt you. Not while I'm breathing." Grace studied his face for a moment. Then she reached out, touched the scar on his jaw. "Did a bad man do that?" "Yes." "Did you beat him?" Something flickered in Jonas's eyes. Not quite a smile. "Eventually." Grace nodded, satisfied. "Good." They left Thomas's house through the back door, moving through alleys and side streets. Jonas led, pistol hidden beneath his coat. Eleanor followed with the children, Martha bringing up the rear. The courthouse loomed ahead, a massive stone building with pillars and steps and armed guards at every entrance. "There." Thomas pointed to a side door. "Service entrance. My contact will let us through." They approached carefully. A man in a clerk's uniform waited by the door, looking nervous. "Thomas." The clerk's voice was a hiss. "You didn't tell me there'd be children." "They're witnesses." Thomas pressed something into the clerk's hand. "Get us inside." The clerk hesitated, looked at Eleanor, at the children, at the desperate hope in their faces. He opened the door. They slipped inside. The courthouse smelled of paper and dust and old justice. Their footsteps echoed on marble floors. Voices murmured behind closed doors. "Harrison's chambers are on the second floor." Thomas led them up a narrow staircase. "He's expecting a full docket today. Cunningham's case against you is first on the list." "Cunningham's case?" Eleanor's voice rose. "He filed charges against me. This morning. Fraud, theft, slander." Thomas glanced back. "He's claiming you forged the receipt Samuel left, claiming you're trying to steal the mine claim with fabricated evidence. That's insane. He's the one who—" "I know." Thomas stopped at a landing. "But Cunningham's got lawyers, connections. You've got a widow's word and some papers. In a court of law, that's not always enough." Jonas stepped forward. "Then we make it enough." His voice was hard. "We show Harrison everything. The letter, the receipt, the silver sample. We tell him what we saw in that mine. And if he doesn't believe us, then we make him believe." Jonas's eyes found Eleanor's. "We've come too far to lose now." The courtroom doors opened. Judge Harrison sat behind the bench, silver-haired and stern. Guards flanked the room, hands on weapons. The gallery was packed, spectators whispering, craning for a better view. And there at the plaintiff's table sat Fletcher Cunningham. He looked different here, polished, respectable. His gloves were gone, revealing soft hands that had never worked a day. His suit was new, expensive. His smile was confident. He turned as Eleanor entered. "Mrs. Prescott." His voice carried across the room. "How good of you to join us. I was beginning to think you'd run." Eleanor's blood boiled, but she kept her voice steady. "I don't run, Mr. Cunningham. Not from the truth." She walked to the defendant's table, Jonas beside her. Martha took the children to a bench near the back, keeping them close. Judge Harrison banged his gavel. "Order." His voice was deep, commanding. "This court is now in session. The matter before us is Fletcher Cunningham versus Meredith Prescott regarding ownership of mining claim. 7 Section 14. Silverton Territory. Cunningham's lawyer stood. Young, sharp-faced voice like oil. "Your Honor, my client brings this action to protect his rightful property from fraudulent claims. Mrs. Prescott has produced documents she claims prove ownership, but we believe these documents are forgeries created after her husband's death to steal what rightfully belongs to Mr. Cunningham. We have evidence to support this claim." The lawyer held up a stack of papers. "Expert testimony regarding the authenticity of the receipt. Witness statements from bank employees. A clear chain of custody showing that Mr. Cunningham purchased the claim legally after Mr. Prescott's death." Harrison studied the papers. "Mrs. Prescott." His eyes found her. "You are representing yourself." "I am, Your Honor." "You understand the charges against you, the potential consequences." "I understand that Mr. Cunningham murdered my husband and 3 other men." Eleanor's voice rang clear. "I understand that he forged documents to steal our land. I understand that he burned down a woman's home and tried to kill my children. And I understand that I have proof." The gallery erupted, voices shouting, the gavel cracking. "Order!" Harrison's face was dark. "Mrs. Prescott, those are serious accusations." "I have serious evidence." Eleanor reached into her bodice, pulled out Samuel's letter. "This is a letter from my husband written 3 days before his death. In it, he describes discovering Mr. Cunningham's fraud. He warns me to find Jonas Hartwell if anything happens to him. He tells me where to find proof." She placed the letter on Harrison's bench. "This is the receipt my husband received when he paid off the mining claim." She placed it beside the letter. "Dated 2 weeks before the mine collapse, signed by the bank clerk, notarized." Harrison examined both documents. His expression was unreadable. Cunningham's lawyer jumped to his feet. "Your Honor, These documents could have been created at any time. Mrs. Prescott has had months to fabricate evidence. We request they be examined by experts before admission. Your Honor. Jonas stepped forward. I have additional evidence. Harrison's eyes narrowed. And you are Jonas Hartwell. I own Hartwell's General Store in Silverton. I was Samuel Prescott's friend, and I was present when Mrs. Prescott discovered the truth about her husband's death. Mr. Hartwell was mentioned in the letter. Harrison glanced at the document. Continue. Jonas reached into his coat, pulled out a small cloth bag. This is a sample of silver from the Silver King mine. I collected it 3 days ago from a vein in the lower shaft section C. The same shaft Mr. Cunningham claims collapsed and was unsafe to enter. He placed the bag on the bench. If Your Honor examines this sample, you'll find it matches silver. Mr. Cunningham has been selling through Denver markets for the past 6 months. Silver from a mine he claimed was played out. Silver from a claim that belongs to Mrs. Prescott. Cunningham stood. Your Honor, this is absurd. Mr. Hartwell is clearly biased. He's been helping Mrs. Prescott evade lawful authorities. He destroyed a bridge to prevent legitimate arrest. I destroyed that bridge to save a woman and her children from being murdered. Jonas's voice cut through. Your men weren't trying to arrest us, Cunningham. They were trying to kill us. Just like you killed Samuel Prescott and 3 other miners. That's a lie. Is it? Jonas stepped toward Cunningham. Then explain why your men set fire to Martha Brennan's store with children inside. Explain why you sent armed riders after a wagon carrying a widow and her babies. Explain why every sheriff and deputy between here and Silverton is on your payroll. Cunningham's face went red. Your Honor, I demand this man be removed from the courtroom. Sit down, Mr. Cunningham. Harrison's voice was ice. Both of you. They sat. Harrison was silent for a long moment, studying the documents, the silver sample, the faces before him. Mrs. Prescott. His voice was careful. You claim Mr. Cunningham murdered your husband. Do you have any direct evidence of this? Eleanor's heart pounded. I have my husband's letter which describes what he discovered. I have the receipt proving we owned the claim. I have the silver, proving the mine wasn't empty. And I have... She stopped gathering herself. I have my husband's dying words, told to the one survivor of the collapse. The gallery went silent. Harrison leaned forward. There was a survivor. Walter Finch. Eleanor's voice shook. He died of his injuries 2 weeks after the collapse. But before he died, he told his wife what happened. He said the supports were cut. He said someone set charges in the lower shaft. He said Samuel tried to warn them, but it was too late. And where is Mrs. Finch? Eleanor turned. The courtroom doors opened. A woman stood in the entrance. 60, gray-haired, dressed in black. Her face was worn with grief, but her eyes were fierce. I'm right here, Your Honor. Her voice carried across the room. And I've got plenty to say about what Fletcher Cunningham did to my husband. Cunningham went pale. Sarah. His voice was strangled. I thought I what ran away died. Sarah Finch walked down the aisle, every step deliberate. You burned my house too, Cunningham, 3 days after Walter passed. Thought you'd silence me for good. She stopped at the bench, looked up at Harrison. I've been hiding in the mountains for 6 months, waiting for someone brave enough to bring this man to justice. Her eyes found Eleanor. This woman is that someone. Harrison's gavel cracked. Order. But his voice had changed, harder, angrier. Mrs. Finch, you're prepared to testify under oath. I am. And you witnessed your husband's account of the mine collapse. I did. Sarah's voice was steady. Walter told me everything. The cut supports, the charges. Samuel Prescott shouting for everyone to get out. Cunningham's foreman sealing the entrance behind them. Lies. Cunningham was on his feet. This woman is delusional. I have proof. Sarah reached into her coat, pulled out a leather journal. Walter's diary. He wrote it all down. Names, dates, everything. She placed it on Harrison's bench. He knew something bad was coming. He wanted someone to know the truth. The gallery erupted again. This time Harrison didn't stop it. He opened the journal, read. His face darkened with every page. Finally he looked up. "Mr. Cunningham." His voice was thunder. "Do you have any response to these accusations?" Cunningham's lawyer whispered frantically in his ear. Cunningham pushed him away. "Your Honor, this is a conspiracy. These women are working together to destroy me. The documents are forgeries. The testimonies are lies. I am a respected businessman, a pillar of this community, and I will not." "You will not what?" Harrison cut him off. "You will not face the consequences of your actions." He held up Walter's journal. "This diary describes in detail how you ordered the destruction of the Silver King shaft, how you paid men to cut supports and plant charges, how you sealed 4 miners inside to die." He held up Samuel's receipt. "This document proves the Prescott claim was paid in full before the collapse. The signature matches bank records. The notary seal is authentic." He held up the silver sample. "This ore matches samples from silver you've been selling for 6 months. Silver from a mine you claimed was empty. Silver from land that belongs to this widow and her children." Harrison stood. "Fletcher Cunningham, I am placing you under arrest for murder, fraud, arson, and conspiracy. Bailiff, take him into custody." The guards moved forward. Cunningham backed away, face twisted with rage. "You can't do this." His voice cracked. "I own this territory. I own the banks, the railroads, the law. You're nothing. All of you are nothing." The guards grabbed his arms. "I'll destroy you." He was screaming now, all pretense gone. "I'll burn it all down. Every one of you will pay." They dragged him toward the door. As he passed Eleanor, he stopped. His eyes locked with hers. "This isn't over." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Your husband died screaming, begging, and you'll die the same way. I swear it." Jonas stepped between them. "Get him out of here." The guards hauled Cunningham through the doors. His screams echoed down the corridor, then faded. Silence fell. Harrison sat back down. His hands were shaking. "Mrs. Prescott," his voice was hoarse, "based on the evidence presented, I am dismissing all charges against you. Mining Claim 7 Section 14 is hereby restored to your ownership free and clear." Eleanor couldn't breathe. Furthermore, Harrison looked at Sarah, at Jonas, at Martha in the gallery. "I am ordering a full investigation into the Silver King mine collapse. All of Mr. Cunningham's assets will be frozen pending trial. Any debts owed to his bank are suspended until the investigation is complete." He banged his gavel. "This court is adjourned." The gallery exploded. People rushing forward, shouting questions, reaching for Eleanor, but she couldn't hear them. She could only see her children running toward her from the gallery. Grace crying. Noah trying not to cry. She fell to her knees, caught them both, held them so tight she thought her arms might break. "Mama," Grace's voice was muffled against her chest. "Mama, did we win?" Eleanor looked up. Jonas stood before her, tall and steady. Behind him, Martha was wiping tears. Sarah Finch watched with something like peace on her grief-worn face. "Yes, baby." Eleanor's voice broke. "We won." Noah pulled back, looked at her with Samuel's eyes. "Papa would be proud." Eleanor touched his face, traced the jaw that was so like his father's. "Papa is proud." She kissed his forehead. "Wherever he is, he's proud." Jonas knelt beside them. "It's over." His voice was rough. "Cunningham will hang. The mine is yours. The children are safe." Eleanor looked at him, at this man who had given everything for a family that wasn't his, who had fought and bled and nearly died for strangers. "Thank you." The words weren't enough, would never be enough. "Thank you for believing us, for staying." Jonas's hand found hers. "I didn't stay for thanks." His eyes held hers. "I stayed because it was right, because you needed help, because He paused, something shifting in his face. Because I couldn't walk away. Grace tugged at his sleeve. Mr. Jonas? Her small voice was serious. Are you going to stay with us forever now? Jonas looked at Eleanor. She looked back. Something passed between them. Not words, something deeper. I don't know, little one. Jonas's voice was gentle. That's up to your mama. Eleanor squeezed his hand. We'll talk about it. She smiled through her tears. Later, when we're home. Home. The word felt different now, bigger, fuller. Home wasn't just a cabin in the mountains. Home was these children. This man. These friends who had risked everything. Home was wherever they were together. And finally, after months of running fighting, losing Eleanor Prescott was going home. The journey back to Silverton took 5 days. 5 days of slow travel, healing wounds, and conversations that lasted long into the night. The wagon moved at half the speed of their desperate flight, but no one complained. There was no one chasing them now. Cunningham sat in a Denver jail cell awaiting trial. His assets had been seized. His men had scattered. The empire he'd built on blood and lies was crumbling, and Eleanor Prescott was going home. Grace slept most of the way, her small body finally relaxing after months of fear. Noah sat beside Jonas on the driver's bench, asking questions about horses and ranching and all the things a boy should know. Jonas answered each one patiently, his gruff voice softening in ways Eleanor had never heard. Martha rode inside with Eleanor, the two women sharing blankets and silence and occasional words. "What will you do now?" Eleanor asked on the third night. "Your store is gone, everything you built." Martha shrugged. "Build again. I've done it before." "In Silverton." "Maybe." Martha's eyes found Jonas through the canvas opening. "Maybe somewhere else. Depends on how things settle." Eleanor followed her gaze. Jonas was pointing at something in the distance, explaining it to Noah. The boy listened with rapt attention, nodding seriously at whatever wisdom was being shared. "He's good with children." Martha's voice was soft. "Always was, even after he lost his own." "I know." "Do you know what you're going to do about that?" Eleanor's cheeks warmed. "About what?" "Oh, please." Martha rolled her eyes. "I've seen how he looks at you, how you look at him. Don't play coy with me, Eleanor Prescott. It's too soon. It's been 8 months. Samuel loved you." Martha's voice gentled. "He loved you enough to send you to Jonas, to trust that man with his family. You think he'd want you to be alone forever?" Eleanor's throat tightened. "I don't know what I want." The words came out broken. "I don't know how to want anything anymore. For so long I just wanted to survive, to keep my children alive. And now that's done and I don't—" She stopped. "I don't know what comes next." Martha took her hand. "That's all right." Her voice was warm. "You don't have to know yet. You've got time now. Time to figure it out. Time to heal. And if I can't heal, then you learn to live with the scars." Martha squeezed her fingers. "Like Jonas did. Like I did. Like everyone does who's lost someone they loved." The wagon jolted over a rut. Grace stirred but didn't wake. "He makes me feel safe." Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. "I haven't felt safe since Samuel died. But with Jonas I feel like maybe the world isn't as dark as I thought." "Then hold on to that." Martha released her hand. "And when you're ready, tell him. What if he doesn't?" "He does." Martha's eyes twinkled. "Trust me, he absolutely does." They reached Silverton on the 5th evening. The town looked different, smaller. The streets were quieter, the faces unfamiliar. Some people stared as the wagon passed. Others turned away. Word had traveled fast. Jonas pulled up outside the ruins of Martha's store. Nothing remained but charred beams and ash. "Lord!" Martha climbed down, walked toward the wreckage. "I knew it was gone, But seeing it, Eleanor joined her, took her arm. We'll rebuild. Together. With what? Martha's voice cracked. I have nothing left. You have us. Jonas appeared beside them. And you have this. He handed Martha an envelope. She opened it. Her face went pale. Jonas, this is money from Thomas. A loan, he called it. Enough to rebuild. Enough to start over. I can't accept. You can and you will. Jonas's voice was firm. You saved Eleanor's children. You risked everything. This is the least you deserve. Martha stared at the money, then at Jonas, then at Eleanor. Tears streamed down her weathered face. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. Eleanor squeezed her arm. Say you'll be here. We need you. Martha wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. All right. Her voice steadied. All right, I'll stay. Someone's got to keep an eye on you two anyway. Jonas almost smiled. They left Martha at the boarding house, then continued toward Eleanor's cabin. The road wound through pine forest, past frozen streams up the mountain toward home. The cabin appeared as the sun set. It was whole, untouched. The door stood straight, the windows intact, smoke rising from the chimney. Eleanor's breath caught. Someone's been here. Jonas tensed. Wait in the wagon. Jonas, please. His eyes met hers. Let me check first. He climbed down, moved toward the cabin hand beneath his coat. Eleanor watched, heart pounding. The door opened. Deputy Wade Osborne stepped onto the porch. Jonas froze. Easy. Osborne raised his hands. I'm not here for trouble. Then why are you here? Osborne looked past Jonas to the wagon, to Eleanor, to the children watching with wide eyes. I came to apologize. His voice was raw. To all of you. He descended the steps slowly. I knew what Cunningham was doing. Not all of it, but enough. I knew he was crooked. I knew he was dangerous. And I did nothing. His jaw tightened. I told myself it wasn't my business, told myself the law was the law even when the law was wrong. And because of that, people got hurt. People died. He stopped before Jonas. You were right. That day at Martha's store. You said sooner or later I'd have to choose. He swallowed. I'm choosing now. Jonas studied him for a long moment. Why the cabin? I've been watching it, making sure none of Cunningham's men came back to cause trouble. Osborne gestured toward the door. Fixed a few things while I waited. The roof had a leak. The fence was falling down. Eleanor climbed down from the wagon. You did that for us? I owed you. Osborne couldn't meet her eyes. What I did, what I almost did, there's no making that right. But I can try. If you'll let me. Eleanor looked at Jonas. He gave a small nod. She turned back to Osborne. You let Cunningham's men chase us. You would have dragged me to jail on false charges. You stood by while innocent people suffered. Osborne flinched with each word. But you also gave us one day. Eleanor's voice softened. One day to run. One day to escape. And that day saved our lives. She extended her hand. I'm not ready to forgive you. Not yet. But I'm willing to try. Osborne stared at her hand. Then slowly he took it. Thank you, ma'am. His voice was thick. I won't let you down again. See that you don't? He released her hand, tipped his hat, and walked toward his horse. At the edge of the clearing he paused. Ma'am, the whole town knows what happened. What Cunningham did. What you proved. He looked back. They're ashamed. Most of them anyway. They want to make it right, but they don't know how. They can start by treating us like people again. Eleanor's voice was firm. They can start by remembering that fear doesn't excuse cruelty. Osborne nodded. Then he mounted his horse and rode away. The cabin was warm. Osborne had kept the fire burning, the wood stocked the larder full. Eleanor walked through the rooms, touching familiar surfaces, remembering the life she'd lived here with Samuel. The children ran ahead, reclaiming their spaces. Grace grabbed her rag doll from the shelf, clutched it tight. Noah climbed to the loft, calling down that everything was just as he'd left it. Jonas stood in the doorway watching. "I should go." His voice was quiet. "Let you settle in." Eleanor turned. "Go where?" "Thomas's place is empty. I can stay there until..." "Until what?" She crossed the room, stopped before him. "Until we don't need you anymore, until it's proper for you to leave." Jonas's jaw tightened. "I don't want to presume. You've been through enough. The last thing you need is..." "The last thing I need is to be alone." The words came out fierce. "The last thing I need is to watch you walk away after everything we've been through." "Eleanor, stay." She took his hands. "Please. Not forever if you don't want. But tonight. Stay with us tonight." Jonas looked at their joined hands, at her face, at the hope she couldn't hide. "People will talk. People always talk. I don't care anymore. Your children, my children adore you." Eleanor squeezed his fingers. "Grace asks about you every day. Noah wants to be exactly like you. They need you, Jonas. And so do I." Jonas was silent for a long moment. Then slowly his fingers tightened around hers. "I'm not good at this." His voice was rough. "I've been alone too long. I don't know how to be part of something anymore." "Neither do I." Eleanor smiled through her tears. "We can learn together." "Mama," Grace's voice came from inside. "Mama, Noah won't share the blanket. Coming, baby." Eleanor looked at Jonas. "Stay." He nodded. "I'll stay." 3 months passed. The snow melted. The streams thawed. The mountains turned green with new growth. Silverton came back to life, and so did Eleanor Prescott. The mine reopened under new management. Eleanor hired honest foremen, paid fair wages, and the silver flowed. Not for greed, but for security. For her children's future. For the future Samuel had dreamed of. Martha rebuilt her store bigger than before. She became the unofficial heart of the town, the place where news was shared, and disputes were settled, and lonely people found company. Sarah Finch moved into a small house on the edge of town. She spent her days tending her garden and her evenings telling stories about Walter, keeping his memory alive. And Jonas Hartwell stayed. He slept in the barn at first, then in the spare room, then elsewhere. The town did talk as Eleanor had predicted, but the talk faded when they saw how happy the children were, how healthy Eleanor looked, how Jonas smiled now, a rare and precious thing. On a warm evening in May, Eleanor sat on the porch watching the sunset. Grace played in the garden chasing butterflies. Noah practiced roping with a lasso Jonas had made him. Jonas emerged from the barn wiping his hands on a rag. He crossed the yard, climbed the steps, sat beside her. "Fence is fixed." "Thank you." They sat in comfortable silence. "Eleanor." Jonas's voice was different, nervous. "I need to ask you something." She looked at him. "What is it?" He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. Old, worn, the wood darkened with age. "This was my wife's." He opened it. Inside, a simple gold ring. "I've been carrying it for 15 years. Couldn't let it go. Couldn't wear it. Couldn't do anything with it except remember." Eleanor's heart stopped. "Jonas, I'm not good at this." His voice was rough. "I already told you that. I don't have pretty words. I don't know how to say what I feel. But I know that when I'm with you, the world makes sense again. I know that your children feel like my children. I know that for the first time in 15 years I want to build something instead of just surviving." He took her hand. "I know I'm not Samuel. I know I can't replace him. I wouldn't want to. He was a good man, and he loved you, And nothing will ever change that. I know. But I love you too. The words came out raw. I love your strength, your courage, the way you fight for your children, the way you never gave up even when everything was lost. He held up the ring. I'm asking you to marry me, Eleanor Prescott, not to replace what you had, but to build something new. Together. Eleanor stared at the ring, at Jonas's weathered face, at the hope in his eyes. She thought of Samuel, of the love they'd shared, of the life they'd built, and the dreams that had died with him. And she thought of Jonas, of the man who had saved her children, fought beside her, stayed when he didn't have to. The man who had given everything for a family that wasn't his simply because it was right. She reached out, took the ring. Yes. Jonas's breath caught. Yes. Yes. Jonas Hartwell. She smiled through her tears. I'll marry you. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. His arms wrapped around her like shelter, like safety, like home. Mama! Grace's voice came from the garden. Mama, are you kissing Mr. Jonas? Eleanor laughed against Jonas's chest. Yes, baby, I am. Does that mean he's staying forever? Jonas pulled back, looked at Eleanor. Does it? She touched his face, traced the scar on his jaw, memorized every line, every shadow, every beautiful imperfection. Forever. The wedding was small. A summer afternoon, the garden in bloom, friends gathered on borrowed chairs. Martha stood, as witness, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Sarah Finch brought flowers from her garden. Even Deputy Osborne came standing at the edge of the crowd, hat in hand. Noah walked his mother down the aisle. Grace scattered wildflowers in their path, giggling at the solemnity of it all. Jonas waited at the end, wearing a clean shirt and a new jacket, his hair combed for perhaps the first time Eleanor had ever seen. His eyes were fixed on her, only on her, and they were wet. The ceremony was brief. Traditional vows spoken clearly meant absolutely. When Jonas slipped the ring on Eleanor's finger, his first wife's ring, given new meaning, she felt the weight of it. Not just gold, but history, loss, and now hope. I now pronounce you man and wife. Jonas kissed her. The crowd cheered. Grace shrieked with delight. And for the first time in over a year, Eleanor Prescott, Eleanor Hartwell, felt truly, completely happy. That night, after the children were asleep and the guests had gone, Jonas and Eleanor stood on the porch together. The stars were thick overhead, the mountains dark silhouettes against the sky. An owl called somewhere in the forest. The world was quiet and full and peaceful. What are you thinking? Jonas's arm was around her shoulders, warm and solid. I'm thinking about Samuel. Jonas tensed slightly. It's all right. Eleanor leaned into him. I'm thinking about what he'd say, if he could see us now. What would he say? Eleanor smiled. He'd say it's about damn time. She looked up at Jonas. He'd say he couldn't have picked a better man to take care of his family. Jonas's eyes glistened. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that. You already do. She kissed him, soft, slow, full of promise. When they pulled apart, Jonas looked at the cabin, at the mountains, at the life spreading before them like an open road. What do we do now? His voice was quiet. Now that it's over. Eleanor took his hand. It's not over. She squeezed his fingers. It's just beginning. Years later, people in Silverton still told the story. The story of the widow who fought a powerful man and won. The story of the children who survived when survival seemed impossible. The story of the scarred rancher who saved them all, not with violence, but with courage and decency, and stubborn, unwavering love. They told the story of Samuel Prescott, who died protecting a secret and whose sacrifice was never forgotten. They told the story of Jonas Hartwell, who found a second chance at a family when he thought his heart was too broken to love again. And they told the story of Eleanor, who lost everything, fought for everything, and built something beautiful from the ashes of her grief. The mine prospered. The children grew. Noah became a lawyer, fighting for the kind of justice his father had died for. Grace became a teacher, passing on the lessons her mother had taught her about strength and resilience, and never ever giving up. Jonas and Eleanor grew old together. They watched grandchildren play in the same garden where they'd been married. They sat on the same porch, watching the same mountains, holding hands, the way they had that first winter when everything seemed lost. And when Jonas finally passed peacefully in his sleep, Eleanor didn't mourn alone. The whole town came, the whole territory. People who had heard the story, who had been touched by it, who believed in the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. She buried him on the hill beside her cabin, where he could watch over the family he'd saved. She visited every day, talking to him the way she'd once talked to Samuel, telling him about the children, the grandchildren, the life they'd built together. And when her time came years later, she was buried beside him. The headstones stood together on that hill overlooking the valley, the town, the mountains that had witnessed so much joy and so much pain. Two simple stones, two simple inscriptions. Jonas Hartwell, husband, father, protector. Eleanor Prescott. Hartwell, wife, mother, survivor. But the people who knew them, who remembered the story, added their own words. Words that weren't carved in stone, but lived in memory, in legend, in the hearts of everyone who heard the tale. They found each other in the darkest winter, and they built a spring that lasted forever. The mountains still stand, the streams still flow, the cabin still shelters whoever needs it. And the story endures, not because it's extraordinary, but because it's true. Because it proves that even in the darkest times, even when hope seems foolish and love seems impossible, there is always a chance. Always a path forward. Always someone willing to help if you're brave enough to ask. Eleanor Prescott asked. Jonas Hartwell answered, and together they proved what she had known all along. That love is stronger than fear, that truth is stronger than lies, and that the human heart, no matter how broken, can always find its way home.